First, let me announce that all decisions of the board are final. If there's anyone aggrieved by the decision of this board, they may appeal to circuit court within 15 days of the board's decision. Also, no permits or license can be issued until that 15-day appeal period is expired and no appeal has been filed. For information regarding the board's decision or an appeal to circuit court, the Office of Land Use Administration will be your contact. As you come to the podium, if you'll direct your statements and any questions or comments to the board, not to others in the audience or to the staff. We'll be somewhat considerate of the time. And if you have an electronic device, I'd ask that you turn it off or on silent so that we don't have a disturbance during the meeting. And let me start with calling the roll call. Mr. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. Golden.
Here.
Mr. Metcalf.
Here.
Mr. Milling.
Here.
Mr. Burrows. Absent. And I'm William Guess. So we have 6 members present. That meets the requirement for a quorum. And if we have anyone abstain from a vote, we'll still have sufficient number for a quorum, I believe. So let's see, 1, 2, yep. So that would work if we have anyone recuse themselves or abstain. All right, we'll go in order. 6152. This is the 3255 Airport Boulevard. Your name and address, sir, for the record?
It's Frank Leatherwood with Thompson Engineering, 2970 Cottage Hill Road.
Okay, and have you seen staff's recommendation?
No, sir, I haven't.
You have not?
I have not.
Okay, well, we need to share that with you first. Because staff recommends for approval, but there's some conditions.
Okay.
And we need to make sure, as the applicant's rep, your applicant is willing to accept those conditions.
We're in agreement.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant's rep? All right. Is there anyone in the audience either in favor of this application or in opposition wish to speak at this time? This is application 6152, 3255 Airport Boulevard. Okay. Staff recommends for approval with, appears, 3 conditions. Granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let me finish with the conditions. Special conditions do not exist that are hardship, which exists, including lack of planning area and the literal enforcement of provisions of the chapter will result in necessary hardship. And the spirit of the chapter shall be observed with substantial justice shall be done to the surrounding neighborhood and applicant by granting the variance as required trees are provided elsewhere on the site. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next application is 6153. This is the 3244 Dolphin Street.
And Mr. Chairman, we have been in discussion with the applicant for this case. They've also applied for an administrative planning and development since they are part of an overall shopping center. And we advised them that the parking ratio variance that they're seeking through the application to the board was not necessary, and that the issue could be handled through the planning and development process. Based upon that, they submitted an email on Friday asking to withdraw this application.
Okay, are you the representative? I am. If you'll come and give us your name and address and just tell us that you're in support of withdrawing the application.
Yes, I'm Mark Farrell with Jones Lang LaSalle. I'm working with Chick-fil-A for this location.
Okay.
You want my home address?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, 3220 Wood Springs Trace. That'll be Lilburn, Georgia.
And the applicant's requesting that the application is withdrawn, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So there's no other business regarding this for the board then.
Okay,
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. 6154, 1795. This is the 4686 Airport Boulevard.
I'm John Rudolph. I'm the operations manager for Myers Oil Company. We're the owners of the property.
And your address?
My address is 8811 Highway 180, Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Okay, and have you seen staff's recommendation?
No, I have not.
We're batting 100 here. Let me ask while I have you, this is the property, correct? Okay. And while I have your application here, there appears to be upwards of about 8 additional signs that are not part of this permit. That are these temporary signs where they use the zip ties on the poles and trees and things like that? Have you?
Well, as far as I know, this application only applies to the electronic reader board with the LED price number sign that we're going to replace.
Okay. Well, just as a matter of record, that those, and I'm sure staff will have a separate discussion with you, those additional signs, the little temporary signs, they'll have to be removed as per the requirements, I understand.
Right. The image that you have before you shows signs attached to trees, to light poles, and 2 additional signs were attached to the main building itself and then also to the car wash building. There are no permits for any of those signs, and in fact, the site would not be allowed to have all of that additional signage, and it's not unusual for a convenience store to have all of the excessive signage, and we're just going to use this opportunity to inform this particular location of the requirements, and then we will also work towards informing other convenience stores throughout the city of the fact that they can't have all these signs.
So we can remove all the signs on the outside, on the light poles, trees, I get all that. But as far as the building framed signs, can we apply for a permit, or should we
Yes.
not waste our time even doing that?
No, I think we can proceed. I think that the point is we just want to bring it to your attention as the applicant's rep that all these little temporary signs truly need to be removed and the board's going to move on with considering your application as it is today. But I want to make sure you've seen the staff's recommendation.
I do.
Okay, and are you in agreement with those conditions?
I am,
Okay.
yes.
And I would add an additional condition, I don't know if it's necessary, that all these temporary signs are removed as well, if that's acceptable.
Well, that is the first condition. After the findings of fact, we have several conditions, and the first one would be the removal of all excess unpermitted signage prior to the issuance of permits for the new signage.
Okay, I just want to be clear about that.
And if they wish to retain the signs that are actually attached to the building that were not permitted, then they could apply for sign variances for that.
Okay.
All right. Any questions of the board for the applicant's rep? Yes, sir. They got numbers. Any questions, I should say? All right. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this matter? Anyone in opposition? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair. Move for approval, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Okay, a motion with a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, thanks, sir. Thank you. All right, application 6155, Branch Tower. This is on the corner of South Sage and Slava Creek. Yes, sir, your name and address.
David Wilkins, P.O. Box 1038, Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Okay, and yours is also recommended for approval. And then there's conditions as well. I think
It's a split recommendation,
yeah, it's
actually.
actually a series. Have you seen the staff's recommendations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and are you in agreement with those as the applicant's rep?
Well, we're in agreement with the two to approve the height.
How about the let's see here, the landscaping and access maneuvering. Those are the two you're not, I suspect.
Well, I wanted to speak to the board about those two.
Please.
Particularly the paving requirement. In that area, Slava Creek is a floodway. There's some AE flood hazard zone, some X 100-year flood hazard zone, and some X 500-year flood hazard zone all around that area. And this road, this tower's set back 400 and something feet from Sage Avenue, and so it's a long access road in there. And there's already an established slag road there that goes across this property to the, there's a Alabama Power substation back there, and it's a slag, and some of it's like in the crown of it is grassed over. And basically, if we did the paving, which we can do without hardship to us, but it would just add about 6,000 square feet of impervious surface in an area that's already flood prone. And so as far as the public interest and the surrounding landowners and streets, we just thought it'd be a good idea to ask for a variance on the paving.
What's the elevation for your equipment?
It'll be where our tower site is itself. We won't have to elevate the equipment.
So the actual tower site's not in the flood necessarily
No,
subject to
but
flooding?
on this parcel and surrounding parcels, there's a lot of flood hazard zone there, and we just thought, it was just kind of a good idea that if you didn't add 6,000 more square feet of impervious surface, it'd be worth asking for anyway.
Right.
And on the tree planting, the site is surrounded by a nice stand of trees already. And I can remember, I'm a dinosaur. I did a lot of applications here, 1999 through 2004, and sometimes just working with the urban forester, if it made more sense to plant the trees somewhere else or donate to the city tree fund or whatever, that might be a better idea also. So,
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Metcalf?
maybe for staff, but is the driveway going to be used by Alabama Power as well?
yes.
Are they participating in the project?
No, they just have they have an easement, and then they own the parcel to the west of this parcel, and that's where the substation is.
Hey, Bert, pull it up where you can see the properties.
So are you purchasing the entire property,
Yes,
There you go.
but your access is off your property?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are they
we just had last week, the planning commission approved dividing this 3.4 acres into two lots. And so the lot that the tower's on, the 30-foot flagpole part of the lot.
Do you have an easement arrangement with Alabama Power for improving this part of their property and for common use?
Well, it's our property, but Alabama Power has an easement to get to their property.
Okay. I got you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, the site for the tower is actually in the back left corner, correct? Yeah.
Right, it's
Okay.
back towards the west side. Yeah, that's it.
So other than the setback from the property line, it's not near any structures other than the substation?
That's correct. The substation is here,
Right.
just to the west.
Okay. All right. Once again, any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, one more question about the trees.
Yes.
Bert, the site looks like it's full of trees. Do they not meet the requirements for the existing trees for what's required?
Well, on the actual property where they will be developing, they'll be cutting down all the
Just the
trees.
lot one there?
Yeah.
Okay. How many trees would it be, would be required?
I'll have to look at the report to see what it recommended.
Is it not based on the frontage? Because it looks like the frontage is only, what, 30 feet?
Well, there's frontage and perimeter or parking, so it might be a frontage tree and it might be one tree for the parking space. And it doesn't look like that the staff report specifically stated how many trees. You might be looking at about 2 trees that would have been required based on the site.
Does the staff have any issue with them going into the tree bank?
That would be fine.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Once again, any further questions? All right. Anyone in the audience either in favor or opposition? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and you said you're in agreement with, other than the paving, that you would prefer not because of the impervious surface?
Yes.
And the trees, you could donate to the tree bank in lieu of on-site planting?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one quick question. If you don't pave that, would you do any additional improvements to that existing road, or do you propose just to leave it like it is currently?
We're proposing to leave it like it is. I mean, I've been out there myself, and, you know, we could address that with the...
Does it have any kind of aggregate on it right now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, in pretty good shape?
Yes, sir.
All right. No potholes, things like that?
No.
Okay,
It's
thanks.
Okay. Oh, excuse me, one question though.
All right.
When we talk about aggregate, we usually look at an apron to keep it off of the paved surface that it fronts.
Right, and
Is there any apron?
No, and part of the requirement, I think, for this and for the subdivision was where that road is, we have to, the part that's in the right-of-way, we would need to
Put a
improve
permanent
that.
surface.
Yes.
Okay, is that correct?
Yes, and that's part of the engineering comments in the recommendation for approval.
Okay. All right, any further questions? Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move for approval, subject to conditions set by the staff.
And with the condition they donate to the tree bank?
Donation to tree bank, yes.
And the applicant's requesting a variance on the surface, and you're in agreement with that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, application 6156. This is 3535 Spring Hill Avenue.
Jerry Bird, Bird Surveying Company, for the owner and applicant. The request is for reduction of building setback along an unopened street from 20-foot side street setback down to a 12-foot. This 33-foot street shows up on a plat for the first time in 1828 when Spring Hill plat was put on record. All those squares was put out there, the blocks, 33-foot roadway between all of them. This one has never been opened as a roadway. It is a drainage easement. Has a drainage ditch in it, concrete drainage ditch going down it. And I doubt seriously, well, of course, staff report says city has no plans to open it as a street. When this subdivision in blue was put on the other side of the street, that was approved by the Planning Commission in 1992. There was no requirement of dedication for additional right-of-way, nor any restriction, no building setback from it. There's a 7.5-foot drainage easement along that property line, which would enhance that, but there was no requirement for it. We're asking for that to be reduced to 12. The owner actually, you know, his thoughts is that good land's hard to come by. That's 8 foot of wasted ground. because he plans on building a garage right in this area, and he would like to put it at the at 12 foot, and be able to utilize the balance of the lot. But the Irene Street is paved to about in this area. It's not open, it's not open as a roadway. It is cleared through here. The Water and Sewer Board just relocated a large water line and sewer line down it all the way through here. So I don't even think the city's planning on increasing Irene Street. And this is just there being used as a drainage easement. If it didn't say right away on that plat, hey, 8 foot side yard would be in order. But we're asking for a reduction down to 12.
How wide is that area between those two developments?
Oh, 33 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. All those streets started out being 33 feet wide, excuse me.
Plus an additional 20 on your side, or your applicant's side.
Well, 20-foot building setback.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant?
Jerry, as far as the property right now, there are 2 houses? I mean,
Yes.
what's been going on?
2 parcels, 2 houses. We have approval by the planning commission to combine those into one. The owner's going to remove them and build a house.
Okay, so they're tearing down the 2 houses?
Yeah, they will when everything gets in order.
Okay.
I'm kind of holding on the recording of the subdivision until we know what happens here today.
So if necessary, the applicant could actually shift, if they're going to have one structure on this, they could shift it after they tear these 2 homes down,
Oh, yeah.
potentially, to make that setback requirement.
Yeah, he can meet the setback, there's no doubt. It's just
Mr.
that-
Chairman, the plan is to build, of course, a main house, and then they'll have a freestanding garage.
Correct. I'm just saying, even with that, they have some maneuverability on this property. All right. Once again, any questions of the board for the applicant? So you're actually the applicant's just trying to gain 8 feet of the side yard setback.
Right.
How close is it to that drain?
Sir?
There's a drain on that section of property too, is it?
Oh, that water line crossing there?
No, I thought
Nope.
there was actual storm drain on the backside of that property.
Yeah, like I say, there is, actually that ditch comes up closer to Irene Street. It's outside that fence that's shown, but it's about a 12-foot concrete ditch down through there.
Right. So,
Open ditch.
yeah. Okay. All right. Anyone in the audience either in favor or opposition today? Okay. Chair entertain a motion.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes opposed, but the motion carries. All right, we're in application 6157 now. Mobile Area Chamber of Commerce Foundation.
It's going.
Name and address.
Frank Lott, 4100 Ridgelawn Drive, Mobile.
All right, and let's see here. This one, they have not given us a recommendation, but we'll proceed.
Yeah,
Tell
there
us
was
why we
one.
ought to consider the variance.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Please give us justification for the variance.
Okay. Yeah, this building is on St. Louis Street, which the city, is kind of deemed the technology or innovation corridor, and this, we say, will be the hub of that, the innovation portal, which will be a business incubator and accelerator. And so it takes the old building and refurbishes it and builds an additional new building concurrent to it. And if you look at the first variance, which is the pedestrian courtyard, asking for a variance for it to be larger than what can be done. it's to join the two buildings, the new and the old. And you can, it's hard not to see it in three-dimensional in that first picture, but I guess better go back to that first one. Yeah, if they want to check it. Yeah, keep going one more. Oh, sorry. This is the third one, maybe. All right. And so on the top picture on the left is the old building, which most recently housed Threaded Fasteners. Was an automobile dealership, and there was a metal building on the corner there that's going to come down and make a courtyard, which is the way it was originally. And the building that says Innovation Portal is the new building. And so the joining the two buildings will be, you know, what's up for the first part of this, I guess. Does that make sense?
Correct. That's in, what, 400 feet in excess of your normal?
Yes, that's 400 feet in excess of what the regulations would allow.
Okay. Proceed.
All right. The next one's the signage, and you know, you can see where the painted sign on the side, Innovation Portal, is what we intend on St. Louis Street. We have the current building, Threaded Fasteners, has large signage painted on the side, and we intend to keep the same sort of feel on the front of this. I know it says 2 foot in height, and we're proposing 10 foot total, 5 foot on each layer there to really set aside this building as part. You know, the signage is part of its architectural feature in the new building.
Is that the only signage on the building?
The additional signage will be, there you go. Yep. I got the pros, the architects here, and they say go back one. There you go. Yeah. So you can see
That's the allowed painted secondary frontage signage.
On this elevation, there is a blade here, and I believe the size of this blade is larger than what would typically be allowed. So they're also asking for the variance for that.
The blade was intended to meet the requirement of 10 square feet.
So maybe it's not, but that would be that's tenant signage, right? Yeah, that would be tenant signage. There's going to be the corner of that courtyard would be a coffee shop tenant, and that would be their signage. That blade would, and we would ensure that it met, you know, the current.
Okay. All right. Any questions of the board for the applicant? You got that in the next one.
Yeah, the other item is the polycarbonate material, which I believe is this area here.
That's clear glass there.
Oh.
The material is the structure itself.
Ah.
Turn it around again. Sorry. The other elevation, the skylight. So if you looked at the sawtooth, yeah. Okay, the sawtooth, if you go back, I'll explain it a bit. The sawtooth that goes up, those have skylights facing north to get light in, and so the polycarbonate is the skylight material, you know, that you wouldn't see from the street, or really, you know, unless you were overhead.
Why are those prohibited?
Well, the polycarbonate as well as the metal siding are just materials that are not allowed under the Downtown Development District regulations.
Anywhere on a building?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a little confused on the Claiborne Street side. Each one of those, you call them sawtooths, those are individual buildings?
No, they're not. It's one large building.
Why are there lines on this site plan that indicate you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots that say proposed building? Why is it done like that?
That was probably done by staff, and that's showing the way of the sawtooth, how it will show up on the roof plan. So
Okay.
it's, sorry for the confusion.
So that is one building.
One large building, right?
There's more or less tenant spaces.
They would be tenant spaces, right, individual tenant spaces, or in some collaborative workspace, you know, so, in general, no ceilings on the inside, so the light can come down and shine on the whole thing, whether you're on an outside wall or inside wall.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just for my own gratification, because I don't really understand it, it's not part of this, but is that design supposed to be representative of something?
The new building?
I mean, architects tend to, they like to make it representative of something.
I'll let them speak on that.
Kind of like the building we're sitting in now?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Right.
It's a very traditional industrial form. It's been used in the last century, and the reason behind the form is it allows light in from the north, which is easy to work
So
in
form
light.
follows function?
Pardon me?
Form follows function, is that kind of what we're doing
I
here?
think you could say that, and it is it's very green.
You
in
could
the
say
sense
they
that-
look like ship, sails on a ship.
You could say that. If you like
That's
to
like
sail.
this building here.
We have
And it really
water
looks
here.
that way too, doesn't it?
If you would,
Thank
your
you.
name and address.
I'm sorry. My name is Susan Swider,
But-
and I'm architect with Jatina Acock Studios in Birmingham.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, I have a question about
Yes.
the mention of the coffee shop.
Right.
Is that going to be run by the chamber, or is it going to be a private business going in it?
No, this is, it's a private business. There'll be a tenant.
But a tenant.
Yes.
So that'd be another sign on it, right?
I'm sorry, another what?
Well, as was pointed out by one of the speakers, they will have a separate sign for that tenant here that would be compliant, and under the regulations that we have now for downtown, there are greater levels of flexibility in some cases for signage. So that sign would be allowed by right, as was pointed out. And then they're also showing that they would have in addition to the sign on the building here, there would be an additional blade sign which would be compliant as well.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one more question. On the south elevation where it says Innovation Portal, that appears to be a plane, a separate plane. Would that be correct?
On the new building, I'm not sure.
Right there. That's indicating that it's some kind of division or plane of the building.
It's intended to be painted on the front of the wall.
That's not my point. The
I'm
plane, is that a separate plane of the main structure?
Meaning, is there a facade differentiation?
There's something that changes
Oh, I
that
see what
part
you're
of the
saying.
building from the rest of the building to the west.
Change in material only. Yeah, no.
So it would be a plane change.
I think Mr. Lott said it just a change in material. If you look at this plan here, you have the existing building, it steps back away from the street for the connector, and then you have the new building that comes back up to
Okay,
the
and that
street.
distance is what? Of that new,
The connector?
if that's what you call it, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
This distance looks like it's about between 10 and 20 feet.
No, I'm talking about left to right.
It's 45 feet.
Okay, what I'm trying to get at, Bert, is what would be allowed in the sign, if you put a box around that sign like you do?
Yes.
How far over are they asking for? That's my point.
Well, again, the downtown regulations are different than the rest of the city. You would be allowed, the issue is really the height of the sign, which could expand the entire width of the building. And in this case, instead of doing the 2-foot height that might be allowed, each line of text will be 5 feet high, I believe they said. So instead of a 2-foot by entire building width, they're looking at a 10-foot by smaller width.
So it's not exceeding what is allowed?
In terms of square footage, you know, whatever the entire width of that segment of the building would be times 2 feet, I don't know what that square footage is.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Milling, you were on the planning for the downtown. Can you speak to the materials? skylights and?
Sure, I will also speak to the project specifically, just because I think, you know, just in its basic nature, the Innovation Portal is a, you know, a center that, you know, promotes creativity and entrepreneurship, and I think the building supports that. And I think that the fact that they're here for a variance for, you know, outside of maybe some of the more traditional materials and layouts, I think with this situation fits perfectly within kind of what their mission is, and also with what's going on St. Louis Street. And so, you know, I mean, the way I analyze it, and I've done a lot of work on St. Louis Street, is I think, you know, you've got a corridor that is identified as Mobile's technology corridor. There's an interesting balance right now between historic structures balanced with kind of modern techniques and creative techniques, and I think that is what they've been trying to do from day one. And so I think it's a really interesting use of the property, and definitely in support of it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Normally on tech parks and similar facilities, they look at LEED certified. Are you trying in any way to go for LEED, or is that a little bit too much?
You know, since we're combining the old with the new, it's hard to get it done. We're taking the approach of being extremely environmentally friendly to the furthest extent we can, whether that's through our lighting practices and through the skylights we talked about. But to take that old brick warehouse to get it to LEED certified would be tough. We are, you know, insulating the, you know, re-insulating the roof, and so we can take it there. But I'm not sure we want to step over that. Yeah.
Can't you put the project on hold for another year and maybe go for another grant or two?
It won't happen if we put it on hold another day. It may not happen.
All right. Any further questions of the board? Yes, Mr. Woolman.
Sure. On the interior court, is there an exposure there? The ceiling, or is this the interior court? And on the corner?
The courtyard area, it's open.
The front courtyard? Yeah. No,
Well,
no
the inside one here.
Down, all the way down.
That
This one?
No, it's open.
Right there.
This one's open with trees.
Those are trees, yeah.
Huh?
There are trees in that area, so it's an open courtyard, open to the
court.
public.
I was asking to see what I'm
And if you drove by that now, you know, you've seen that corrugated metal that they used as warehouse, so all that's going to come out, and it's going to go back to the original structure.
I was looking for trees.
Trees, yeah.
Okay, so the building already has corrugated metal on it. You're just.
It does, yeah.
So that's already an architectural feature that you're just.
Right.
Utilizing differently, I would say. All right, and what was the question or the concern about wheel stops for the parking?
Typically, when you have parking spaces, if there is a landscape area, we would need wheeled stops if there's no curb and gutter to prevent the vehicles from running into the landscape area or crossing the property line and blocking the sidewalk.
So do we have curb and gutter, or is it?
Yes.
Well, it looks like that there is curbing based on this drawing here.
So the wheel stops is.
They still could be necessary depending on, you know, if there were a sidewalk here, if a vehicle pulls all the way up to the curb, then the overhang would be into the sidewalk and would not be passable.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Metcalf.
What is the the proposed fencing around the parking lot?
At this time, we're proposing the shrub approach.
Well, but don't they have to come into compliance with the new?
Say that again? Painted metal, I'm sorry. I was thinking we were talking about the front courtyard. Painted metal on the back, yeah.
Yeah, the downtown development will require either a 3-foot-high metal fence that looks like wrought iron, plus evergreen hedge or vines, evergreen vines.
And is that what y'all are proposing
Right,
to do?
yes.
As
Yeah.
part of the development plan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anyone in the audience? Well, first of all, anything to add that we haven't already discussed? Okay. All right. Anyone in the audience either in favor or opposition to this variance request? Okay. We have none. All right. Any further discussion of the board? Questions? Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the variance request.
Second.
Have a motion with a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
All right, application 6158, 4972, 1651, Revelation Baptist Church. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. David Frazier, pastor of Revelation Church. My address is 1711 Teller Lane. Excuse me, address of the church. My address is 3708 Long Ridge Drive East.
All right, well, the staff haven't been so kind to you. They recommend denial. You want to tell us why we ought to consider otherwise, sir?
Yes, we have two proposals. One, I'm trying to see if you can see it on the screen. First of all, I want to apologize for the drawing that we submitted. When we found out about what was going on, it was just before Christmas, and we couldn't get through the engineering company. Hargrove and Associates basically had shut down and couldn't get permission to work on their drawing till late, and it was after we submitted that we were able to contact them. So it had to be hand drawn, so I just want to apologize for that. But as you can see on the drawing, there's a dumpster that's placed near the center in the bottom here, and we wanted to position that behind the church, first of all, so it wouldn't be visible from the street. That was the first thing, so we couldn't see it from the street. And the staff is requesting that we follow the ordinance that we would have a 10-foot offset from that property line on the bottom, which would put the dumpster in the parking lot area, which would take up at least 3 parking spaces and just be protruding out there in the parking space. So we are requesting that we allow it to stay where it is now, behind the curb. And our second request was to forego the enclosure on 3 sides, but our main one is not to have it to be in the parking lot. If we had to do the fencing on 3 sides, it's fine. We have 1 side already, and we can put the fence up on the other 2 sides on the east and west side if necessary. But that's why we were requesting the variance, because the 10-foot, that line is a curb line. It's right at 10 feet, and if we go on the other side, we will take up at least about 3 parking spaces.
Can I ask, may I ask you a question? In looking at the pictures, the far left corner, you have a bus cage area.
Yes.
Would you consider having it kind of down in that area, closer to your, kind of keep all your commercial activity in one area? And the reason why I say that is looking at the picture, directly on the other side of this property is a house. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure a grease rendering unit and a dumpster is kind of aromatic in the summer.
And it's been there for pretty much for 30 years, and we haven't had any planks.
Okay.
There is a existing pad right outside of the fenced-in area here, right where the light is.
That's kind of where I was proposing.
Yeah, where we were looking at. We had it there, but we shifted it down so the trucks could get in and out easily.
Well, that was my next question. How does the truck service?
Yeah, so that's why we moved it along that fence so that they could get in and out fairly easy. And presently, the grease trap is in place, and that's why I say right at Christmas time, we realized that there had to be some adjustments made, or they couldn't put in the pad. And so that's why we were scrambling to try to get into this meeting, because there's a trench across the parking lot right at Christmas, and dirt was piled up, and so we just trying to make some adjustments. And that trap is in place to move it down to that existing area that you talked about.
So the trap's in the ground?
It's in the ground.
Okay. It's not
initially,
a
you had a permit for it, and after they came out, there were some changes, and I was told by I can't give you the name of one of the staff members, that sometimes that happens on plumbing, that they may approve the permit, and then sometime when they get out in the field, they might make some adjustments. That happened to us. So that's in place, and pretty much have been approved with this dumpster pad holding everything up.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. This
Yes.
triangular area on the picture here to the right, it's in pretty close proximity to the grease trap. I mean, is there some particular reason it can't move and get?
There is a storage area right there that we have a storage building right there. A portable.
So is there a road or access? How do they service the dumpster and the pad?
If you look at the light, he's showing you the path. You come off the street and around the building.
So they actually, where the parking spaces are, they back up to it. They back across those.
Usually it's the front of the truck that goes with the fork.
Forward, yes.
Yeah. And they'll probably service it when there are no cars in the parking lot.
Correct.
Which that's what they do most of the time now.
Okay, I have no further questions. Any questions of the board? Okay, are you here in favor or opposition? Favor. If you'll come down and give us your name and address. You've been so patient to sit through all these other requests. Your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Mary Tinsley, and I'm a member of Revelation Missionary Baptist Church. I live at 1967 Canal Street.
Okay, and how close to this property are you?
I say about 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 blocks, because I walk to the church sometime.
All right, thank you. And your name, sir?
My name is Clarence Irby. I'm a deacon there at Revelation Missionary Baptist Church. My address is 306 Michigan Avenue, and I'm also the chairman of our trustee board at Revelation Missionary Baptist Church.
Do you know the residents that live adjacent to the
Pardon?
church? Do you know the residents that live
Yes,
near the church?
yes. I grew up in that neighborhood. Yes.
Okay. And you don't think any of the residents will have any problems with the...
No, we took a survey of some of the neighbors that is, right in the back of the area, and they're all in agreement with it.
Okay. Do you have something to add, sir?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. Just behind the fence, that property that you talked about,
right.
Our security guard owns that property, and we was hoping that he would be here because he has no objection.
Okay. So he understands the purpose. All right. Once again, any questions of the board? Yes.
No question.
Okay. All right. Chair, entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, the members of the board, I would like to offer a motion of consideration for approval, and I'd like to further say that this church has a good rapport with that community. As it has been mentioned, for 30 years, that dumpster has been there. One of the better working communities with the church in Mobile. And I'd like to offer a motion that we would approve it.
Mr.
Under any
Davis?
conditions.
But before, I think the applicant mentioned that if necessary, they would consider the fence around it?
Yes.
Okay. Does your motion include that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the exception for the setback, but the fence would be required?
Yes, sir. With the
Okay.
fence involved, yes.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you all for your time. All right, do we have any other business today?
No, sir, we do not.
Mr. Anderson, you got anything for us? No, sir. I guess that's a good thing. All right. Well, we'll get out of here before the Mardi Gras fun get started. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Yeah.